Tēnā tātou katoa. Tuatahi nei me mihi kātika ki a Ngāti Whātua Heru Hāpai. Koutou kua whakatau mai nei tēnei kaupapa ki tō koutou whenua. Nei rā te mihi. Ka rere tonu te mihi ki a koutou katoa kua whai wā ki tēnei kaupapa. Koutou te whakamenenga. Tai atu ki ngā kai kōrero katoa te pōnei. O tira koutou katoa ngā kai whakahaere o tēnei kaupapa. Nei rā tēnei muaupoko e mihi nunui ana ki a koutou. Kia ora whānau. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sian. Kia ora, there's my noisy friends. I'm a ringata, a ringatoi. I grew up in the whānau of creative people. Both my parents, Maxine and Guyon, are creatives, as is my sister Anna and my late brother Paul. I also come from an extended whānau full of creative people. And like all of you here tonight, a whakapapa of creative and resilient and brilliant people. That wasn't supposed to rhyme, sorry. Hoi anō. Kia ha tēnei mea te toi Māori. This is something that I had to interrogate and answer for myself before coming here tonight to try and lecture anybody else. And so, you know, being invited to this kaupapa has given me the opportunity to really dig deep into this question and consider what toi Māori means to me as an individual, but also the ways in which I've seen toi Māori uplift and transform the lives of individuals and communities as well. So that's what I want to speak a little bit about tonight. So just a couple of disclaimers. I'm going to primarily focus on our visual language or visual art, but all of the whakaaro, of course, extend to all of our toi practices. I'll try and stay in my lane a little bit for once. And secondly, I've tried really hard to keep to my my time limit, so if I happen to go over time, just somebody start way as a tautoko. No, please don't, please don't. It's hard enough as it is. Hoi anō. He toi whakairo he mana tangata, hea ha tēnei mea te toi Māori. Got my clicker? Tuatahi ake nei ki au nei, toi Māori is a framework for exploring, understanding and interpreting our world. So to start with a bit of a visual of what this actually means, so it's not just words on a screen, if the peak here is what we can see or hear, i.e. the product or the outcome, the pūtake is a snippet, well this red is the pūtake by the way, a snippet of what underpins or goes hand in hand with our toi practices. So the word art in English isn't always a sufficient translation for toi because it sort of inherently implies that we're speaking to an outcome or a product and doesn't necessarily capture the wealth of mātauranga that goes hand in hand with our tikanga and tukanga toi. So, you know, for our tipuna, toi Māori wasn't an outcome or a product. It was an integral, organic part of everyday life, deeply and intrinsically entwined with aronga, tikanga and mātauranga Māori. So our mātanga toi were scientists, philosophers, technologists, teachers, agitators, activists, knowledge keepers, you know, navigators, researchers, and so on and so forth. And they mastered the skill of articulating and maintaining their relationship with the world through our reo and tikanga toi. Which brings me to my next point. Te reo toi. Toi Māori is a language unto itself. So we've all heard the kōrero that, you know, we, Māori, didn't have a written language prior to colonisation. But those of us who work with visual language can, and sometimes do, argue that our visual language was a form of written language, and that, in fact, colonisation has severely disrupted and narrowed our view of literacy in te ao Māori. And through the process of colonisation, our reo toi, not just our visual language, but our reo toi generally, was largely erased from the landscape of Aotearoa, and with it, the bodies of knowledge and the pukenga that underpin those toi practices. And as Rangi Kipa once put it, to me in casual conversation. For our people, that erasure is like looking in the mirror and no longer seeing our own reflection. So, that erasure for our people was huge. And it's something that generations of revivalists have worked tirelessly to undo or repair over the years. Many of whom are here tonight, some on stage, some in the audience, so e mihi ana kia koutou. And the work of those revivalists for my generation and the generations prior, for many of us, their work was a lifeline to Te Ao Māori. And their impact, is immeasurable. And as a friend of mine so eloquently put it recently when writing about our visual artists of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the decades prior, our visual artists told the stories of our world when the words were taken away. Pretty flash, eh? It's a good friend of mine. Waiano captured it perfectly, eh? And there we see again another, the image of Robin Kahuki was repeated there, which we've also seen in Nico's presentation tonight. And so Toi Māori is a language unto itself, not only because our patterns and designs hold meaning and whakapapa, which of course they do, but because Toi Māori has a way of speaking to our people and communicating with our people on a subconscious level. Toi Māori is a source of affirmation of identity and belonging for our people. So the presence or visibility of Toi Māori in our landscape, like the work of our revivalists, creates a sort of what I'm going to just refer to as like a feedback loop. Am I on the right slide? Yes, ka pai. The whakatauki he toi whakairo he mana tangata is therefore not a linear concept, but a cyclic one. Meaning, am I on the right? Yep. Artistic excellence is both a result of human integrity in a healthy community and a catalyst for it. Hapai? Meaning, let's unpack that a little bit further, whānau. Can you guys see? Sorry. The presence or visibility of Toi Māori instills a sense of pride and identity and integrity in our people, which becomes embedded into the collective consciousness of our communities, who in turn feed that back into the community. Ka pai, he toi whakairo, he mana tangata. O, kia ora, kia ora. Which is why it's so important that our people, and especially our kids and rangatahi, have access to Toi Māori, because when our people can see and hear Toi Māori in the world, in their environments, in their homes, their kura, their towns, on their whenua, what they're seeing is themselves reflected in the world around them. Toi Māori reinforces to our people that they belong in the world. Ka pai? And just to give you, do we have time for a quick story? Yep. Just to give you guys, an example of the power of the naturalisation of Toi Māori in action, I'll refer back to a conversation I had with my son a couple of years ago. Now, my kids, both of them, Raukura and Mahaki, have both grown up with moko. They've never known a world without it. But those of us who grew up, pre-internet, pre-2000s, many of us will remember the feeling of seeing somebody with moko kanohi for the first time, a kanohi, and being quite taken aback by it, or quite stunned by it. Because with the exception of some rohe, he ahua tauhou tērā tu āhuatanga I taua wā. It hadn't been renaturalised into our environments at that point in time. So anyway, a couple of years ago I introduced my son, who was about 7 at the time, to 2 friends of mine. Both were tāne, both artists. One had a mataora and one didn't. And when we left the whare where we were all together, I was curious to see what he had remembered about each of them, or if he had actually, if he had noted anything about the mataora. And so I said to him, do you remember, some of you might have heard this story, so just humour me. And I said to him, do you remember which one Wetere was? And I think he might be out here tonight. I won't make him stand up. He's over here. And I said, do you remember which one Wetere was? He's the one with the mataora in the story. And he said, yeah. And I said, which one was he? And he said, the one with the hair tie. And so if toho translates to exotic or unusual, and Māori translates to natural, normal, native, this was as clear an example as any, of the de-exoticization and the renaturalization of te reo toi, in my own whānau. Kua Māori tēnei tu āhuatanga ki tōna ao. I'm getting there, whānau. Toi Māori gives life, language, and expression to our relationship with the world. So one job of the Māori artist, or the creative, is to figure out how we fit in this complex tapestry and what we can contribute to it. And I just want to talk briefly about, one of my experience with moko, because, it's pertinent to this point. And I don't usually talk about my own moko that I wear on my body publicly, but I'll talk about actually, is it coming up? Yep, the kirituna pattern that I wear on my face, on my giant face that you can see here on screen. It's quite big. And because it's not really about me, and it looks like something new, but what it actually is part of a tale as old as time, which is the expression of our relationship with our world through te reo toi. And so my priority with moko has always been to uplift moko kanohi within my own iwi, including developing design language that reflects our identity as an iwi. Easier said than done, trust me. And so, tuatahi, me mihi ki a rangi nānau I arahi ki tēnei tohu nāna hoki I tā, so me mihi ki a ia kātika. And so when I saw this pattern, this is the skin here. You can see this is the tuna skin. And so this is a tuna from our lake. My people are lake people, we're tuna folk, much like many of you here, I'm sure. And so when I saw this tohu in our environment for the first time and really examined it, fireworks went off in my head, because here was this tohu just staring back at me from our own taiao that reflects who we are and our historical and ongoing relationship with our environment. And here was this tohu free from all of the, or much of the social, political, historical, and binary constructs and misconceptions and trauma, which we have to navigate often in te ao moko. That is a reality that we have to often navigate. And so that excited me. It really excited me. And so anyway, we had a bit of a hui, and I said to the whānau, I mentioned to the whānau that I wanted to look at how we could integrate this pattern into our moko kanohi practices. And the response was more or less like, all good. You go first though. And just to be clear, hey, that has nothing to do with me being special or anything. That's about people making sure it doesn't look teats before they jump up on the table. Some of you in here will know. Hoi anō, ko tā koe mea ana, toi Māori, hold on, do I have a slide for this? No. Toi Māori represents, connects us to our past, present and future, and it's an expression of our relationship with our environment. He taonga tuku iho ngā toi Māori. Now, in terms of where I sit in my generation, we're probably what you'd call like somewhere nearing the middle, so still young enough and fortunate enough to have plenty of tuakana and seniors to look to. And like I said, many of them are here tonight, but just like a little bit too old for the kids' table, too old for the Happy Meal. And so from this perspective and point in time, I believe that we do have some challenges ahead of us, and one of those challenges is to figure out or consider how we can continue to give new life and expression to toi Māori in an environment that is both colonised and colonising. Because it's in this environment largely fueled by capitalism, individualism, consumerism, all the isms, that toi Māori has become exponentially more popular, and indigeneity is now considered trendy. And so it's our responsibility to understand this and consider what the potential implications are for toi Māori and the ways in which we can continue to give new life to it while simultaneously acting as agents in the decolonisation of Aotearoa. That's our kia ora. What have I got coming up next? Oh, yes. So, yes, taonga tuku iho ngā toi Māori. And as my friend put it, he lent me the words when he was proofreading my kōrero, actually. As we create and develop toi Māori in our generation, we must also develop strategies to combat the new ways in which colonisation manifests itself in its attempt to assimilate us and our practices into the dominant New Zealand colonial culture. Ka pai? Yes, he's very clever. He'll be happy with that. Our whakapapa may be what entitles us to our taonga Māori, but it's also our system of accountability to ourselves, to our tipuna, to our mokopuna, and to one another. He toi whakaero, he mana tangata, with creative power comes a responsibility to our people. Kia ora tātou.